Mic check. Good there. Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Reliable Rudy. Here on a Monday. It was an early morning for me. I had a long weekend of work. Very sore, very tired. But you guys don't want to hear that. You guys are here for the information. Before we go into any stock market analysis, any trading, any investing, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this video contains only my opinion, and it's for entertainment purposes only. Uh, just doing what we love to do. I'm just a guy doing what he loves to do. We trade the stock market and invest in the stock market every single day. So appreciate anybody who tunes in. But at the end of the day, just sharing my opinion, trying to make a little money in the process. So into the title names, a little bit, all names that we've been talking about, all the same names. There's no reason to switch it up. We've been keeping our eyes on these names for multiple weeks now. NVAX. NVAX catching a nice bid. This is the one of the names. Yep, name number 2. We did have this previous low marked from the last stream. Didn't really reject it at all. Had a nice green candle going up into it. I was debating whether I wanted to take a trim on it. But nice volume increase on this candle close. And now kind of fighting through it, but a little bit of a wick top coming in. Which that wick top does come in near the gap down from pullback candle number 1. The big story for NVAX is we have a nice trend line hold. Let's go put that trend line in. Nice trend line hold. We get a neckline break at this 750, 760 range. Nice 2 candle moves with increased volume, setting our pull, setting the stage for our bull flag. Now, when we get this first red candle, we weren't sure if it was going to, maybe just have a single pullback day, or then we take out the highs. But when this took out the wick low, we were pretty convinced that this is pullback candle number 1, pullback candle number 2. We watched it on Friday. We said, hey, we're looking for pullback number 3 to hold 8 flat. We hold 8 flat. We set a close at 805. But the big part, the big tell, is your volume. Always got to understand that volume. Decreasing each 3 of these candle pullbacks, which beautiful. You can't draw it up any better than that. And why is 8 such an important level? It's pretty much the halfway point of your pull. You have a gap fill that has wick buyers. You kind of set a close below that, but holding that 8 level was huge. So now, what does the open do? We get a gap up, tries to show a little bit of weakness, getting back down to this 805 gap. Buyers hold it up beautifully, takes out the neckline at 830. We can go back to a 15-minute chart and look at that. And now catching a nice pump. Volume is increasing. It's early in the day, so a nice little jump in volume relative to what it's been doing the last 2 days for sure. But you can see the first 3 candles of the day. We have 7 minutes and 45 seconds left on this candle, holding a nice green candle as we speak, but still 150k in volume. This getting a lot of volume for the 4th candle, which is pretty much what we've been talking about the whole time. But you can see the neckline break as soon as it starts testing this flat top. This was kind of what I was watching. It ends up setting a candle close. It didn't wick up to here. It rejected this originally. If we go to a 5-minute, maybe we can see that. You can see this was the first candle that it rejects it. Kind of comes back in to retest it. We need to go to a 1-minute chart to see it. You can see the small rejection of that, and then the retest kind of gives up the ghost a little bit. Sideways consolidation. When it takes out that high is when you can see the volume. You get a lot of people pushing in for that continuation. But obviously that's a 1-minute chart. Kind of a wick top, so a decent amount of selling pressure coming in near those lows. You can see the washout top right there has your largest volume increase on a 1-minute. So how much selling pressure really came in? Is it worth maybe taking a trim on it right here, as this we got 6 minutes 30 seconds left. Potentially closing below these body candles could be giving that look like, hey, we need to pull back in, retest 850 before we can get going again. And who knows, maybe 850 isn't able to hold. Maybe we trade all the ways back down to this 8 support. I mean, it's tough to tell, but as of right now, this candle does have a fight taking place, and the volume tells the story. but still has a decent amount of volume. But I'd like to see it close as much as much of a green candle as it possibly can. So maybe it's worth a trim, maybe it's not, who knows. But on to some other title names. GNS, we had a pre-market fill at 94s. I don't have the pre-market data here, but was rejecting two, and we're like, hey, let's just make sure we get a fill out in front of twos here. We took a 194 fill, great. Now on this first candle, we weren't sure how high. We looked at 220 as sort of that level, and we talked about this on Friday, as in if you were just gonna mark just some lows right here, this 220 level, which 210 is the start of that wick, but 220 is the body of those candles. You can see, is it gonna be able to fight above those lows for today? A lot of time left in the day, obviously, but showing rejection of as of right now. So our fills came in at 207, just respecting the true body candle lows. The next one came in at 222. It does show a wick high up to these 230s. We got 222s. We thought, hey, at 230, this next level that we have a gap fill here at 288. But we have some wick highs up in front of 250, so that's what we were looking for. But we weren't able to get that test up to 250, which is all right. We still think that this, even if it needs to pull back in and retest these 160s, we think that this can build a push and try to get up to those 288s. But if I was looking at it as a retracement, you can see, let's just clear out all of our lines that we have drawn in right there, and let's look and see, hey, if this was a retracement play, where are some true levels that we could see? And you can see our first retracement is this 226. So putting a wick up into that, is this going to be the wick high temporarily for the week? It's tough to say. But if we can fight through that, we are going to be looking at this 250 range, which has some wick tops, and that 286, 288 gap. After that, we'll play probably up to that next retracement. If we can start fighting in the range of here and fight through that gap, we think we can get over threes. After that, we have a gap fill at 362, so we'll be playing that 350 level, which has some wick tops into it before we break down. But after that, the halfway point, meeting up near these wick tops around that 420, we do think it's possible, and our 702 is potentially going to be a liquidation of the position, which is 871. So just marking out those levels. After getting these 220 fills right here, we're probably not going to reload unless we get some pullbacks down into this 160 range, but we'll see how that goes. Next name, BAC, catching a nice bid today. We had a neckline break, so a nice hold of the trend line, wicking down towards that trend line. Didn't quite get all the ways down there, but given the gap up, didn't have the weakness of pulling back to that gap. But getting a neckline break today, and I'll show you on a 15-minute what I mean by that, is you see these types of double tops come in, that to me, I always identify as it setting up a flat top. And what's more important about it is if we just mark these lows right here, rejection, rejection, rejects the first candle, a little bit of a pullback into the middle of the green move, and then takes it out. So a really nice neckline break right here. I'm very optimistic on this position. Very excited to see it play out. And by no means are we trying to sell any of this today. It does have some resistance up here in these 29s. And if you go to the daily chart, you can see our 21 coming meeting in. We, not necessarily, but we've seen a lot of, some of the tech names that have been pulled back. They retraced up and rejected this level. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this reject 29s or maybe a little bit into those 29s and have to pull back to this trend line again. But one thing that we are going to have on watch is this gap right at 2850. We have multiple fills at that 2850. If this pulls back into that gap, maybe we can adjust this trend line in with that wick low. Maybe it takes a few days to get there, and then on, let's say, September 5th, we're trading here around this gap. It's going to get bought. It's going to get bought. Even if it goes down lower, we are going to respect that level and try to build out that position. Hopefully we have some profit takes in some other names, or maybe it's some trades that we're taking. Maybe we can continue taking profits on GNS. Who knows? But that will be some of the excess cash that we will use to continue pumping into these longer term names. So To me, I look at it as it's all just a big cycle. It's all a big wheel. It's all about bringing in the capital and investing into true long-term investments. That is where we want the size on the positions. We don't want all the size on these trades or these swing trades. We want them into investments that we can hold for the rest of our life and we don't ever have to worry about them. We can trim some levels to the upside when they get excessive or maybe out of our price range where we truly like the value. Like if like for example, we're on BAC right now. If BAC ran up to 31, maybe we'll take a small fill on the name. But all in all, we are looking for this neckline to break, and if we can get top end of the channel, it's not perfect, but something like this, where we have this sort of channel. If we get this move up to the top of the channel, you bet your bottom that we are going to be trimming the name and building that liquidity, finding other names that we like long-term value with, and punching into those names. So it's all a big cycle. Um, but moving on, we go to GM. GM was a beautiful move off those, and I'm just in disbelief that we missed this fill by 3 pennies, which was our bigger size fill that we were looking for. But we did get 25s, we did get 10s. Nice action. Now giving a gap up. I would say this now that it traded up to this 33.5 level. It traded down to the trend line. Now that we have this wick, if we break over top of this 33.60, I'm going to be pretty bullish. It might have to reject 34s temporarily and just trade in this range for a while. But if we break this neckline, I would not be surprised to see a nice green candle shooting up through those 34s. So we're very happy and excited about the GM position. But we can go flip over to a 15-minute chart real quick. You can see gap up, continuation, kind of smaller red candles with low volume. We wouldn't be surprised if this traded back in and holds this 33.25 before it actually needs to take out the high. But you can see these small bull flags set up. I'm sure if we go to a 5-minute chart, you can see boom, boom, boom. Now small candles all the ways in right to the level where 33.50 on our 15-minute. It's just pretty much these body candle highs right here from the open. If this were to start pushing over 33.35, I wouldn't be surprised to see a nice healthy green candle come on in. But it might need to give on a 5-minute. You have to think it moves a third slower, or it moves just that much faster compared to your 15. So I'd be looking for, if I'm looking for 3 pullback candles on a 15-minute chart, I'm looking for 9 pullback candles on a 5-minute chart. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What does it start doing as this 5 minutes starts to develop? I'm sure you have a small channel, but a nice ABC sort of look might be in the cards, which retests that 33.25 before we could see this start making a nice little push, build that little inverse head and shoulders on your 5-minute where you get that full green engulfing candle to push up through that. So by no means is that how it's going to play out, but if we go back to this 15-minute chart, you can see pulling back into the middle of this first green candle seems reasonable. And we do have a close of the next candle. So GNS kind of giving up the levels. Like I said, it probably needs to pull back in. Can it hold this 187, which is what it gaps up to? First wick comes down to that level. Does it need to build this sort of level trade sideways before it takes out the high, or maybe it needs to take out the lows and retest these previous highs around that 150? So a couple different ways we could see that playing out. But all in all, we can take a look back at NVAX real quick. I would say this is 12 minutes left, but this will probably be pullback candle number 1. You got that wick high, that selling pressure. Probably going to have some sort of liquidation. Is this going to be able to pull back to this previous high? So 1, 2, 3, which that previous wick top right there meets in right at that 850 level. Beautiful type of look. If it needs to pull back more than that, you can see the volume increase throughout 1, 2, 3, 4 green candles. This is an indecision candle, but all in all, given a nice move, a pullback into the middle of this green move makes sense. On to the next name, Warner Brothers. We said that we were just going to hold tight on this. We know our average isn't the greatest, starting at 13 flat. Then, trying 1252s. We end up getting the 1250. On this day, we try at 1272, thinking that we're going to get some continuation. It was testing this flat top. We thought, hey, maybe this can give a curl and break. Well, traded sideways for a long time, kind of gives up the ghost, and boom, a retest of that 12 level, which, you know, I would say is a support level. It wicks lower, then boom, 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 wicks lower, but we weren't about to get stopped out of this name. We like the value on this name. We like the long type of setup here, but is it going to be able to hold? There's a couple ways that we can put some leeway on this trend line now. So just getting that wick low, you know, maybe you know, outs underneath 12 or 1190 seem reasonable, but then you have this gap fill right here. So if we do get out of this name, we are going to just reload the position, which will turn into a wash sale, but we'll respect that gap. And if it starts wicking towards that and doesn't fill that gap, if it reclaims 1150, we're going to be in. Mr. Drift, how we doing, brother? I missed y'all in How's stream. I don't think you really missed much. Me and Hal just see things differently sometimes, which, you know, there's millions of ways that you can invest. But you know, Hal knows I'm going to speak it like I see it. I know Hal's going to speak it like he sees it. There's no perfect way to do it. Hal's been investing for a long time. He knows what he's doing. So sometimes for me to just add in my 10 cents on a topic, you know, that's sometimes what we just do. And whether he sees it my way or not, whether I see it his way or not, I feel Hal is very capable of managing a portfolio and very capable of also making trades, as he's been doing it for a long time. It's just that's a prime example of there's so many different ways to invest. There's so many different ways to trade. Not one way is perfect than the other, is better than the other. But no, I don't think you missed much. That's just what me and Hal do. Sometimes we'll be on a Discord call and having the same type of conversation where we just kind of spitball back and forth, just speaking our minds, and it's all about making each other better at the end of the day. But NVAX, I said this was going to be a pullback candle. Candle has now turned green. It's fighting with that green-red. It's kind of wicking up towards that level, so you can see that resistance in front of 9. You can see we have 897 marked right here, which is sort of that flat bottom break, which, you know, probably has some sort of trend line built in right there. Boom, breaks it down, but now we're rejecting that level, so we'll see how that ends up turning out. But Warner Brothers, back to the topic on hand, a nice neckline break. You can see the coil higher lows sort of fought above that flat top, and I didn't expect it to reclaim 50s, honestly. When I was seeing it reclaim 1250, I said, wow, Warner Brothers back up above those previous lows. That already checked the box for what I would want to see it do on the day. In all honesty, it did. But yeah, a nice little setup right here. Doesn't have a ton of volume on this move, but you can see I'm not a fan of these types of bull flags where you know, you could have this, but a lot of times if it's a not a well-known company, or if it's just kind of a crappy company, a lot of times you see this, boom, just a nice liquidity grab, and you see a red candle come in. But with it being Warner Bros., I would say this consolidation period, I would not be surprised to see a nice green candle shoot up and maybe test up to this flat top here at 1280, and we actually could see a flat top break today, which would be very exciting. But I'm not going to average into this position anymore. If I was going to average in more, I would have wanted to probably take this this neckline break. You can see that sort of double top come into that area. Bull flag, gaps up, doesn't have the weakness to get here. As it was a green candle, probably holding like these 1240s. Let's go to a 1 minute chart and just see the move. So you can see that first wick candle is that first minute of the day. As you see it wicking back down and testing this flat top, that is the candle I probably would have wanted to try it. And if I didn't try it there, would have tried to get a pullback in this 2 minute pullback before it tested back up to those highs. So it would have showed you the move, traded back in. I would have been like, damn, I didn't get it. It makes a move up to 50s and then pulls right back into 40s. This is where I would have wanted to start trying to get fills. But now that it's made this move, maybe you could have took it as soon as it reclaims that 1250. But if I was watching it there, I probably would have been telling myself that, hey, it's probably starting to wick into these 1250 range. Let's see if we can get it closer back down to these 1235s. And I probably wouldn't have got it. But we weren't watching. We just looked over and seen, hey, this is actually giving a decent move. Let's take a look at it. But NVAX, now that we have a little bit more of this candle, this is going to be pullback candle number one. And I just want to see this volume get light. I don't want to see large volume testing up near these previous four candles. I want to see it stay light. I want to see the next candle decrease more in volume, and the next candle decrease more in volume. If that comes into an 850, I would say that it's a reasonable setup. But just clearing out everything. If this is a retracement play that it's making, you can see that wick as we're getting closer to that 702. So maybe a false break of that 9. You could be seeing those washout tops, but I do got to keep into consideration that that 702 could see a hard rejection. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. The next title name, we talked about GM. Discover Financial, reclaiming 90s. This name, I'm so tempted to just unload on it. Just unload on this name. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta refill my coffee, but I'll keep talking about it a while. I'm so tempted to unload on this name. The more I keep looking at it, the more it just looks too good to be true. Now, the way I say that in a positive way could actually be the negative. Why is it too good to be true? So that I'm just trying to show as much patience with this name as possible, but if this were to just get exhaustively sold off, let's say into those low 80s, you are gonna hear me screaming at the top of my lungs, buy, and that is not financial advice, but I am hoping and praying that this name finds a way to get more into those 80s. But we are going to be on the bid for that 87.80 gap. I believe it just hasn't gotten there yet. But lordy, oh man, the more I keep looking into it, the more I'm just like, yep, that checks the box. Yep, that checks the box. Yep, that checks the box. Yep, that looks great. Check the box. Yep, that looks great. Check the box there. Now, of course, there is some headline news against the name. But if you are truly looking at like a long-term investment and you're just looking for something that's going to give you fair value for your dollar, there's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of, what if the market, goes down? What if we hit this recession that everyone keeps murmuring about? What if we do get this Fed rate hike? They're in the banking sector, that could affect them. Okay, these are all very short-term sort of effects that can affect the stock price in the short term. Yes, I'm not saying that it can't. I'm saying that if you look at this from a long-term view, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, this name just screams no-brainer to me. Now it is kind of rejecting these 90s. You can see it. No, it must be an 87.28 gap. Now that I'm back on my seat because I have it marked right here, and you can see dips into those 87s just briefly. Let me just go double check and make sure that gap is there. 87.30. So we're off by 2 pennies. Let's move that up. There we go. 87.30. You best believe if this price gets anywhere near that, we're going to be punching in market, and then we'll have an order right off of that. And I know you guys are probably like, man, dude, that's giving out the lows. That's giving out the lows. It's going to go lower than that. Great. Let it go lower. Please, Lord, let it go lower. But yes, that's DFS. Now on to the other very long-term minded name I have, buying against strength. End phase given a gap up, shows a little weakness off the open, doesn't get down to the gap. If this comes down to 120 flats where we're starting, we should have 118s marked, which if you just mark the body low of this candle, and 119, my bad, I was off by 1. we're we're going to be buying this name for support where, after that 115, after that 112s, after that 110 to 109, after that we're hitting the gap at 106. And some people are going to be out there like, man, I don't like trading these higher expensive names. They what if it goes all the ways back down to 1 penny or in the pennies over here? What if it goes down into, this previous high when it makes a move 17? Man, if it did that, I would be on margin well before that. But sometimes you got to separate the two. You got to separate the chart and you got to separate the fundamentals of the company. And what I'm going to hold a lot more regard to is the fundamentals of the company, the growth of the company, the competitive advantage of the company. What do the books of the company look like? What does the company do with their capital? How do they invest their money? What is their return on equity? What type of debt levels is the company sitting in? And when you look more into that, everything leads to when this was down in the 122s, it was trading in the 20 PEs. 20 PEs because they are going to have their first quarter of potential decrease in revenue in EPS. If you're looking long term and you really think that this company has flatlined and they're going to be flat growth for the rest of their career, or what's the right word I'm looking for? The rest of the company's future. Maybe something that I don't, but I do not see that being the case. I'd be surprised if this company didn't grow 10 to 20% over the next 5 years. Now, if I'm looking at a company that's going to grow 10 to 20%, with how well they invest their money, how well they get return on equity, the competitive advantage that they have in the space, the growth of the space of solar in general, there's just no way I wouldn't be willing to pay a 20 PE for the company. You cannot tell me that it is not getting fair value for your buck. But maybe I'm just a guy and I have no clue what I'm talking about. But yes, I'm going to be very excited if ENPH gets beaten down. We did get some fills at these lows. We were just that little bit early. We were trying these 126s for a false wick and trade right back up into it. We thought that it was it was a decent red candle that it put in through that. But here's where we ended up trying it. We thought it was going to start wicking to try and hold that level. It was early in that 15-minute candle that it really gives up the low. You can see, boom. And there was no buying pressure that came in. There was a little bit after. Here's your following candle that rejects the level. You get that downward pressure. But we did have a fill in the 122s as it was trying to trade sideways a little bit. Now, just because that fill is a few dollars in the money, by no means am I saying that, yep, the ride's over to the downside. To the upside, we can go. No. This is still a very weak chart. You go over to the daily chart, and you can see we're still in this oversold area, trying to get out of that oversold area. So that's going to be interesting to see some action. But I would expect, if it got up until like this 60 of strength and pulled back into that negative 100, I'd be interested to see where it was setting up at that point. But if it came back into this oversold area, I'm expecting legs down. So by no means is this a perfect setup that, I would say that, oh, you're going to miss out on it. No, I think you can be patient on the name. In all honesty, and if you're lucky, I think it's worth dipping into the name at some of these support levels that we have drawn out. And I think these low hundreds is a monster level, as you can see. Come down, come on down, come on down. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it caught a bid. It was testing up towards those 150s, and then you're like, oh, I'll wait for it to get back to these 120s or 130s, and then it just keeps giving that slow churn, and before you know it, we're filling 220 gap, and then you're like, man, why didn't I get out of this name? That's what you're gonna be hearing people say is, why didn't I get into this name? Because then the next thing, before you know it, this thing could be printing up at the all-time highs, and you will never even look at the chart again, yet alone trade the name. So that's the title names, guys. It's all the same names. Nothing's changed. We did add a couple names here. We added GSIT. We thought that, it was in the pre-market showing a gap up. to that 345. If that would have gapped up to 345, we would have been looking at this 350 break. But we can probably move this name back on in, but I'm going to leave it there just in case we get a hold of this support level. Now, you're probably asking yourself, dude, if you're thinking about buying it up at 350, why don't you just buy it right here instead of stop loss underneath 320? Well, then, I maybe end up getting wicked out of it, and then it gives the move, and then I'm scared to take a wash sale on it, and I don't want to trade it because then I'm like, oh well, it might get rejected and it might be setting up. I'm ready to take this trade at 350. It's not necessarily a name that's fundamentally sound financially where I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna test this support level that's only testing here for the second time. No, I would actually be more inclined to say that you're gonna get this move down more into this green candle. So looking at it from like a retracement point of view, this is that last retracement. You could be seeing, now if you wanted to go more from that body candle move, you could say it's already off of that, but I would take this low support, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a leg down actually test down to this 230 range. So if I think that that is in the cards, in the one of the ways that this could end up going, then I'm not even really thinking about this support level yet. If I'm right about it, it's going to break this downtrend. We were very close. You can see wick high, wick high, wick high from last week on Monday. And if it's going to hold this level, it's going to give some sort of break to the upside here. So that's what we're going to be watching for. GFAI was another one that we were starting to watch for a potential curl. Earnings coming up. I would say, how is it going to act at this 24? So we just threw the two names that we threw. We threw three names on there, but GFAI given a red candle. If it would have showed some movement up to the upside, maybe fighting above these lows could have been something. You see it rejecting that level. You see it trying to get there again today. I just don't think I see it yet. The strength kind of hovering sideways. If it was going to go, you would have seen this start to give a curl up, maybe get a positive break. And if this would have turned into a retracement play, we could have thought about some outs up in front of 25s, maybe 6, maybe 650. If we get a true retracement, we can see this push up to 7s. I just don't think we're going to get that yet. So GFAI also has earnings on Wednesday. So by no means was I going to be like, oh, I got to get into this name. Got to get into this name. No, that wasn't necessarily the case. But looking at some other strength on these names, Baba given a neckline break. We've talked about the last 2 quarters, the average shares that this company has bought back, 3.1 billion in the last quarter, another 2.6 billion the quarter before. The average shares that they bought back was 88 to 89. I think the previous quarter was actually 87.50. But down here at 80 in these upper 80s, you can bet your sweet bottom that Baba probably in NVAX gave a alert at 120, or not NVAX, Nikola. Still holding these 25s. We adjusted this channel a little bit, kind of acting like it wants to break down. So I think we are just going to put the hard stop in. We do have a gap fill at 116, but we had 2 fills on the name on Friday. If it wants to maybe we could just think about getting rid of it right now, but still trying to hold 124. So maybe we throw a 122 stop if this gets some continuation that's right at support. Maybe we go just a little. It's tough to say. It's tough to say. We're kind of content with seeing if this is going to play out, but it doesn't look like it's going to. So maybe we can just cut this name. Let's just go ahead and do that. I'm ready to be out of this name as it is. So let's go ahead and put a stop on this name. If it stops us out, we'll just take the capital that we have from it and move forward and see what else we can do with that. We go 121. 121 if it stops us out. We take a small hit on the position that we have for it, but the amount that we made off of this from the move up vastly exceeds this small hit that we'd take. So by no means. Oh, NVAX coming on in. Nice red candle. We have 6 minutes left. But we still have this wick high support and the green move. So how is it going to act? If this next candle is a lot smaller of a candle and starts wicking into this 850, you know, it might actually get there on this candle. But the volume increase hasn't really showed up too much yet. It does look like the volume is going to increase a little bit. But how much wick buying are we going to see off these 850s? But back to the Baba case scenario. I mean, you go over to the daily and taking out the highs. So, I mean, yeah, setting up very strong, breaking through those 92.50s. You have wick lows here in front of 93s, and your body candles are at 93.50, give or take. I would say this is a strong chart setup. If this were to trade back in to this gap fill, you know, I would say that's pretty decent. You got the trend line and the wick low from Friday as backup. And those, what did we say? Upper 80s. You bet your sweet bottom that Bob is probably executing some of those buybacks in that range. At least I would say they probably are. Maybe I'm wrong. But I would say that Baba has a reasonable setup. Big players around that middle ground. Well, it gets a little bit lower than that middle ground, but reclaiming positive off of this action of the uptrend. You see, sets a low, 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 low. When we come in contact, when this starts the trend line, it does kind of give up these lows, but boom, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. Do we see another higher low come on in? You can see the potential flat top being built here around these 100 to 105. If it breaks over top of that, we have a clear catalyst for this 117, 118 gap right here. And then after that, we have the top end of the channel probably meeting in with this gap fill at 161. So top end of that channel would set us up for November 8th. If November 8th trades at this day right here, you know, that would be pretty insane to say that, hey, top end of the channel meeting in with the gap fill. Be pretty nuts. But I would say Baba has a reasonable chart setup. The last one we haven't talked about that is a title name is Devon. How many days have we talked about Devon? We had this trend line set. We said, hey, a lot of these types of oil companies are testing up near these lows, testing up near this gap. Now, just because now we talked last week, if this got over 51, you know, 50.90 in particular, we have it marked right there. It would be very interesting to see it catch some continuation. We have a gap fill here at 53.50s right in front of that. I wouldn't be surprised if this week, you know, oil, we look at the weekly chart. Let's cancel everything. We've talked about oil every single day on the live stream, so why not? Candle number 3, pullback candle number 1, wicking into these upper 70s. Pullback candle number 2, wicking into the previous tops and upper 70s. Now, kind of putting in an indecision candle. It's a green candle, but a lot of week left going off of weekly. So how much indecision are we going to see right here? I would expect some buying pressure in these upper 70s. And then next week, if this starts giving us that U-shaped formation, whew, watch out. And we are not going to be opposed of adding oil this week if we see it in those upper 70s. So oil is going to be on watch this week, as it should be, in my opinion, of course. But looking around, amps is the other play that we've been watching. We're on a weekly chart right here, but we didn't mind the earnings report. We went and skimmed through it a little bit, but a nice trend line hold, catches a bid to the top end of this sort of flat top that's building. But this candle testing the downtrend, you know, down here at this 625 level might not be a half bad play. We say the big players are around this middle ground. It got through the earnings report. You would have thought with this candle coming in, hey, we're going to get a negative break. We're going to see it break this trend line. We're going to see a retest of 6 and then a breakdown further. Well, now we're getting a nice hold. You could look at Friday as breaking over top of neckline. Now we're right at that neckline. So let's see what this 15-minute candle looks like. You can see kind of double topping into that downtrend. Probably not a perfectly set downtrend. Probably if I was looking at this as, okay, it needs to make some sort of retracement down here near this 610, you can see is sort of a breakout level. Your half meeting in at this support at 620. How does it act when it gets down there? So this one is going to be on watch for the week, but we'll see how that ends up going. NVAX giving up this 850 range. I didn't expect it to come back in that fast. You can see the rejection there, increase of volume coming on in. Right at that previous wick high. How does this third candle act? So we got a minute 30 left. Maybe it needs to test back in deeper to this sort of flat top break that it originally had, which is called an 830. So if that is some sort of smaller retracement that it's having to make, that meets in right at that 702. So interesting little setup. We'll just be patient with that one. Other than that, that is the breakdown for the day. We just finished the entirety of the breakdown. There is one more I would say is that is Neo. Neo is flirting with this downtrend. We haven't adjusted it yet, so maybe we should adjust it. But it had an unbelievable hold of this range here at this 1050. I thought I would have been pretty confident this was going to break it down. Even if when it was testing this flat top, if it would have started curling, I would have expected this to break it down. It has earnings on Tuesday, pre-market tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see how it acts leading up into that. Well, you can see a decent support level in right there. If this does turn to a retracement, I wouldn't be surprised to see this give a pump up to like 1450. So you can kind of see it gapping above the trend line. Well, maybe this trend line needs to be set a little bit differently, sort of like that. Maybe it needs to be something like that, where that true 11 break could be something. I just don't know. But other than that, yeah, we have FVRR on here. We are still holding this long. Is this going to turn into some sort of channel? It's trying to hold this right around that middle ground a little bit on the downside. So if it keeps rejecting 28, we could be seeing a leg down. But we like their earnings report. They continued to increase margins. The growth year over year wasn't as much, but they actually reported GAAP EPS for the first quarter ever. Non-GAAP 50 cents. We think that this high margin company is one that we can probably hold against us. If it gives us a gap down into these levels of 25, I'll be thinking about more aggressive adds or reloads. They would still be reloads as of this point, but if it does catch a bid, I would not be surprised to see this be a neckline where if it got over top of, call it 29 to be safe, I think that this would potentially catch a bid where top end of the channel meeting in at these highs is not out of the question. Not out of the question up into these mid 30s. PayPal is almost going to be a title name today. Gives a move. If this is looked at as a pull for a bull flag, you got 1, 2, giving a gap up. If it double tops here, I really just want to see it come back down into these 60s where we'll play this like a retracement. If we just make this move up, if this comes back in to these 60s, you got a sneaky gap right here at 59.52. That is going to be played, which also the 618 meeting in near these tops. This is going to be a little bit of a small buying window for me, but if it does come in a little bit more, we'll be looking for higher lows and look at this as another buy window. So all of this is potential orders. That gap is probably going to get bought, even though it would discredit this bull flag continuation. I just like a lot of things with this company, and I think it's a great long-term add to the portfolio. Now we are officially done. After this name. Tricked you guys again. Geo. Trying to hold this 7 level, given the look just like Disney. Hey, this is a flat bottom break. I should get out of this name. We are still holding our 711 average on the name, so a little bit out of the money. Uh, but I mean, if you look at the long term look at this name, I would say you probably have some sort of trend line. Maybe it does need to pull back in a little bit more, where we'll think about adding more to this name around those low sixes. So it does have a good amount of room and a leg down that it could have. Yes, I understand that. But this neckline here, it's just hard. I do not want to get out of this name and it just wicks into this sort of neckline. We'll go back to the daily and you can see this neckline support right here, maybe it is already testing it right now, so I'm still optimistic that this can hold. But you do have gaps at 654, you have a gap at 663, you have a gap at 634. That gap's filled, and then so after all these gaps, you have your trend line that's probably meeting up in these low sixes. Maybe that's where it needs to go. And I'm just a little bit early, but I do like this name long term. I think it's a sustainable name. They've been paying off a lot of the debt. They cut the dividends so they have more cash on hand to be able to pay off that debt. And I think they have a sustainable business model that doesn't really have too much competition. It's government contracted with space for prison cells and mattresses and stuff like that. There isn't too much competition in that space, and the margins aren't terrible. I'm not going to sit here and say that the margins are great. But I will say that it is an interesting long, and I wouldn't be opposed of adding more if it gave that move down. You can see the strength just isn't there. I would say that it looks a lot like a flat bottom break, and it's already rejecting. It got as high as 706, which is sort of some of these wick lows. But there is some hope for it, as if this is if you just mark these lows, maybe that is your catalyst for a false wick down into those 685s, which could be looked at as your neckline on the weekly, and it could be building just some sort of wedge pattern, give or take something like that. I'm not going to say that's perfect and that's going to actually break higher, but I'm saying that there's a lot of things to like with this company. Just because the chart setup doesn't look beautiful anymore, which we haven't really been adding much into this name. We added it a few times in these consolidation areas, and we thought that it looked really bullish to make a break. It was breaking higher over top of this 750. We were pretty bullish on it. We didn't trim too much, but now coming back in, given that true flat bottom break type of look, I would just say I'm not super in love with it like I was. NVAX, leaving a nice wick. This is only candle number 1, so we got 1, 2, 3 pullback candles on this bull flag. Gives the gap up a nice green move to start off the day. I wouldn't be surprised if this had the pullback into 8 flat before it truly built out this U shape. But if this does pan out, you can see as we came back, big players around that middle ground. There's your big players. Boom, nice volume increase off the open. A nice hold of this positive strength. That is what we're looking for. We're looking for this to, if it needs to trade sideways, does it eventually break this sort of flat top that we have right here? That's what we're going to be looking for. Now I promise you guys, we're officially done. And Nikola did stop us out. We're out of it. Done with it. Boom. We'll have that liquidity to trade in 2 days. And, Nikola was a fun move. Looking back, I probably could have just cut the whole position when it was over 100% in the money. Yes, I mean, it's easy to look back and say that, but, it was holding a nice uptrend. Maybe we could have cut more off this trend line break, but then it was like, okay, should we put a hard stop at 190? Would have looked a lot better. Looking back, if I was going to change something, it would have been put a stop underneath of this 190, but I would have probably been more inclined to reload more off of 150. So who knows, that could have actually ended up losing me more money, potentially. Could have potentially ended up losing me more money. So a couple different ways of looking at it. I'm gonna take it for the win that it was, and we'll go from there. Now we can get into some other names. We should have a lot of good information to go off of on some of these names. So let's look around. We'll just start with he. I don't like the candle. Strength still isn't there. Let's see if this can come back. We'll think about trying this off the gap if it does come back in. But honestly, if it does come back into that range, I'll be thinking this support's not going to be able to hold, and I'll still be saying, hey, back test the neckline at 7. So we'll see on this name. We're gonna keep he on watch. We're glad that we got it on the watch list before they put a cap on the tickers that we can have. So yeah, I thought I just needed to delete a few symbols to add more. So I kind of regret deleting some of those symbols, but it is what it is. I can't go back in time and change my decision there. But we like the watch list that we have. We feel we have a great group of tickers that we can that we're able to trade off of, and if we hear other tickers from, you guys can't hear it, but I have a podcast going in the background. Sometimes they go into some of the news and big runner names, so sometimes I can catch names like that. But honestly, in my humble opinion, humble keyword, I can out trade any of those guys on this other podcast. So a lot of times I don't. They're not allowed to hold into the close, so I hold a huge advantage over them already. So they are very. They're even more short-term minded than me when I'm taking trades. Like GNS, they wouldn't have been able to hold GNS into the close. They wouldn't have been able to get this 40% gap up starting into the day. That is the very big advantage that I have. So they're actually rooting for this to get rejected and show downside risk where they can maybe think about going short on some of these large movers. So they need volume. They look at this volume, 21 million in GNS from Friday. They look at that as light volume, which to me, it just seems insane that you can call this light volume. The first two candles of the day, leaving two nice green candles. You got bull flag buyers. It breaks the flat top. This is light volume to them, so they are not interested in that type of ticker. Where me, I gotta try and get that early. This is the volume that they're looking for. Which if they're taking the trade up here, I already got I already am sitting in the driver's seat over them, sitting with a 122 average. Where they're trying to take the trade at 80 cents higher. It's just like how are they able to compete on some of these names? A lot of the names they probably could trade better than me because I'm trying to hold for bigger moves. They look at let's say they were trading Tesla. They look at a dollar move in Tesla as a home run trade, where we take it from $1 right here. We'll run this up to 971. Boom, right there. That's a 0.4% trade. They're treating it like it's a home run trade. Uh, that that's just not something that I'm going to preach. You're not going to see me taking 500 fills in a day. That's one, we don't have the settled cash to do that type of capital. If we were going to take that type of capital, we'd be on margin. But that's why they're trading firm capital. They are way better than me, right? I'm just 99 subs over here. I have no clue what I'm talking about over here. Only 99 subs. What do I know? I'm just some average Joe. But no, let's get back on topic. Candle number 3, 3 minutes left on NVAX, leaving an indecision candle. Some of that volume trying to hold green, trying to hold this 850 level. As we approach closer to that flat top break from beginning of the day, which are 702, is at 830. You can see some of that buying pressure coming on in. So that leaves me optimistic for the future, or leading up at least into today. But maybe a lot more into later into this week. I think it's already done everything I needed to see from candle number 4. A lot of green volume trying to punch back into this name is also another good look. But now I'm actually going to get on topic. Let's find something. We're itching. BGLC, a nice little curl if it trades back in to this level. Let's see if we have anything off the daily chart to go off of. Not quite at that positive break yet. Potential double top into these previous lows. You can see the flat bottom break. Test, test, test. Is it going to test again and have to trade back down? So that's a lot. I hold a lot of regard into this flat bottom break right there. Until it's really able to get over 170s, I don't think there's anything that I would be willing to take a trade on. Unless I would look at that as more of a gamble. I can gamble this gap off of 130s, which looking back, you could sit there and say, yeah, you could have some risk and give it an out. Well, that's a kind of a high risk out right there. It's not, my risk reward isn't really the greatest. I don't have any clear outs to go off of. So we'll wait on that name. Let's look at CDIO, light volume. Let's find one that actually has a little bit of volume, which is GovEV. And now we're talking. I like this volume increase. You already have these first two candles showing you a slight move. Bull flag, one candle bull flag taking out the highs. So if we switch this over to a 30-minute chart, you can see 55 seconds left in this. Does this need to retest this area? So let's go ahead and put an alert. We can look at this as a green move, your half. Let's put that first alert off of that half at 55s, and we'll see if that triggers. So we'll put an alert on that name and see if we get the pullback that we're looking for. But let's also go make sure we take a look at the daily chart. Isn't that strange? Right around that middle ground. 4 candle move to the upside, 1 pullback candle. Candle number 2 showing a green move, testing that flat top, now taking out the highs. So just from looking at a 15-minute chart, I actually identified just the perfect level that I would want to trade it. What's another big thing? Here's your previous lows. Here's your flat bottom break. Reject, reject, reject. Tries to reject it, trades underneath it the next day, now reclaims it, and that's just right above that 50 level. Just like that, guys. Just from scrolling down and just finding that volume on one of the top movers on my watch list for today, which is only 7%, we identified something that we could try the trade for some strength. Now, we look back at that 15-minute candle. If I was looking for a continuation type of play, here's your previous highs here at 56. So if I was really trying to force into this, I could look at this as pullback candle number 1. Pullback candle number 2 with 14 minutes left on it probably pulls back in, and pullback candle number 3. If I see it, if I wanted to be aggressive, I could just have the order right off of that. But then I risk it, getting where I want to trade it and then not being able to trade it off this 55 half or 54 half level. So wouldn't be surprised to see some continuation on that name. CVNA, nice bull flag, gives a nice move, wicking in towards this first candle move. So pullback candle number 2, you have the decreasing volume. Does this pull back in a little bit further? Now let's go take a look at the daily chart. Look at that hold of your positive strength. Look at that. Here's your neckline break. So if I was watching this, you get the gap up. It looks like it fills the gap, just barely doesn't. So I'm sure some people just barely miss this fill. But that wick does go into this neckline. So you would have been sitting pretty good in the money, potentially almost $3 in the money. If you had it up to this wick high, you would have actually been $4 in the money. CVNA, a nice look, but I would say you have a descending channel in right here that could be playing out. So maybe we just give this a little bit of time to breathe. I would say as close to 41, 41.50 to 41 is where I'd be interested in looking for something there. Let's keep looking though. Acer. Setting up sort of flat bottom break, but you do have buyers here off this previous high. Yeah, I don't think we really see anything too obvious. See what Soundhound's looking like. Ooh, Soundhound setting up we have a trend line set. I don't know when we set this, if we set this on Friday the week before or Friday last week, but a nice trend line hold right here. Let's go see. Ooh, man. Putting up a nut up or shut up candle as we speak. If we were, God, we'd take a wash sale on this name. But Soundhound, really not a half bad look. And the big part about it taking out this high is look at the volume increase. We have 12 minutes left on this candle. A lot of time for this. You know, if this pulls back to 42s, I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a really nice entry. And when you look at the daily, it's sort of hovering, trying to push up to that middle ground. When it takes out this flat top, I think that will be a positive break. You have clear outs up at 294 gap, probably the start of the gap as well. So we can run that for a decent little trim, you know, 9% to that first out, 20% to the second. If it keeps pumping after that, that 317 gap is pretty legit. But does it need more time to breathe? We don't have any clear, there's an uptrend break. Uh, so maybe if this starts to roll over, how does it act? Does it give a higher low confirmation? But Soundhound, not a half bad look right there. I would say that could be one that we look back at later in the week and say, yeah, it had a good setup. I was really hoping FaZe said 30 million right there. It was covering the K. I thought it was going to say 30 million. No, I would have freaking jumped over to that immediately. Uh, excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see anything worth keeping an eye on. You know, maybe we can look over at Path. There's Path right there. And I don't think we're gonna get that 450. We're pretty darn close. We talked about Path last week a couple times. I would love to see it reject this level, give that double top look, and maybe we can get 1425s later. I think Mara was one that we seen was catching a little bit of a bid. And by all means, if you guys got a ticker that you want me to address from the title names, I've talked about these title names so many times over the last 2 weeks. So if you guys want an update on any of these names, you just type that ticker into the chat. I'll flip over to it real quick. I got it all in this sort of watch list. GNS, you know, indecision type of candle putting in right here. So we're yeah, no problem, Drift. Take your time. But I mean, every single one of these names, I can probably not even go to the chart and explain to you what we're looking for from them. But all in all, if you guys have anything that you want to take a look at, by all means, go for it. But we really don't see much worth taking a look at. Uh, yeah, no chance we take a chance on that. No chance we're looking at that. The one swing trade we're thinking about going into, Charles, what's going on? Good to have you back, man. GNS, we had a pre-market fill. And I'll just give you the update on. We have 3 fills on the name. We had a pre-market fill at 194. We seen it was rejecting 2 in that pre-market. We just wanted to get a fill, just to save us from opening up lower. We got that 194 fill on this first candle. We took a 207. Now I adjusted my chart relative to how I'm gonna play it. But that 207, I'll give you the rundown of why we trimmed it. We just marked that previous low right there. We looked at this as a flat bottom sort of break. But that 207 we respected. And then we marked the body candle right there, which is a 220. We got a 222 fill. After that, we're looking for a test up to this 254s. The 286 gap, 233 wick tops, and the 260 or the 362 gap fill up there is some sort of extensions. Just waiting for the shorts to cover. You know, I honestly don't even add too much thought into that. I just say if more liquidity's taken off the books, then put back on the books, then the price will go up. But if in this scenario, if this wick low does give up, I'd expect a retest of maybe the body candle, maybe the wick tops, which is a 170. But then you also have your gap fill, which, you know, let's just get rid of that line. Which your gap fill, it gaps up from 146, I believe. So if that comes into play, you know, maybe we get some movement to the upside. So that's what we're hoping for. But getting the fill. We got 3 fills on the name today. Took off one. Um, I believe the first one was a 1/15th, the second one was a 1/30th, and the third one was a 1/15th as well. So we're still sitting on, let's go take a look at that position. Let's see how much size we're still sitting on here. We're still sitting a little bit under that 50% of the position, actually closer to like 44%. So we have 44% of the position left. You know, I would say it looks good for a continuation. You're gapping up over your 200. You're gapping over the Monday, August 14th highs. I think it looks good for continuation. Does it need to pull back first? Maybe it does. So we'll see how that goes from there. But yeah, other than that, we haven't taken any new positions on anything. Nikola, we did get stopped out. We got stopped out of the Nikola, which, you know, that was a great trade that we took from back here. It was time to part ways with Nikola. It looks like it's going to need another leg down. Maybe we can think about it again off this 91 gap, but if that doesn't come in, we'll probably not touch this name again unless something on the chart tells us differently. But amps is a new play that we're looking at. Tested over top of this flat top and wicking into this flat top. We just think it needs a little bit more time. Already setting up the bear flag. You can see here's your red move and consolidation. If this bear flag pans out, boom, you're going to see a red candle come on in. Where 625 could be an area of holding. You know, just marking that 625. Oh, what the heck? Just marking that 625 right there. Does maybe have a little bit of support that can hold, so it can start wicking into that. But down here at 620s, just pulling that across, this was a neckline break that it gapped over, hold, breaks down, and that's where we had a test of the uptrend. So if this wants to come back down into 6, as close to this trend line as we can get it, we'll be thinking about it. By looking around elsewhere, let's see what that, what was the name that we set that alert on? GovX. So let's take a look over at GovX and see if there's any new information on that. GovX keeps continuing to show that stair step. Light volume on this candle off of this 2 green candle move. So we could think about this, you know, just for starters. You know, I had the alert down here for the test down there, but let's put an alert in front of these 56s. I'd like it a lot better off of this flat top. So by no means, just because this alerts us means that we're going to try it, but if it does trigger that alert, we can think about playing this 56 level. But in terms of the top movers here, this is the one that I would be probably interested in. It has 27 million penny stock. I mean, it's 54, 55 cents. So by no means does it mean that that volume is relative. But I'd say CVNA, we are on candle number 3, but wicking up towards that sort of downtrend. Is this going to be something that can break? I'd like it. I would have liked it at the neckline break, which, you know, it sets a close above that sort of neckline, gives you the gap up, wicks down towards that gap. You know, if I'd identified this earlier, we might have actually tried this name somewhere in this green candle move. We would have had outs all the way to the trend line. Now that we've kind of wicked towards that, we have 3 minutes left in this candle. We got the decreasing volume with the wick buying, so it could be something. If I was not looking for a continued move to the upside, and I was just saying, hey, we can try this around this 44 to 43.75, and we can have outs up to the high. Okay, that wouldn't be half bad. If we look at that from, if we were, we'd be looking at 3 to 5% of a move, but we want to try and get a little bit better of a move than that. So, gonna give that some time. Other than that, I mean, everything else kind of stands. We've played and built some positions that we like, and you know, if I was looking at a new one, they report pre-market tomorrow, so it's like, I don't think I can really test this Neo just yet. But you can see, you know, it probably has a more solidified downtrend that it's breaking, sort of like that. So early signs of potentially breaking. We just kept it inside of the channel just for now until we see how this earnings is going to play out. NVAX, you are on candle number 4, and it's kind of giving up that wick low right here. Doesn't need to wick down towards this sort of flat top break. So gonna be interested to see how NVAX plays out at this 8:30. It kind of discredits the green volume right here, but we thought something was off when this second candle came in on increased red volume and a nice red engulfing candle. So still kind of just uh, watching this to see how it plays out. But we think that this name looks good for the week, simply because we're looking at it as a bull flag type of play. You go to the daily, 2 candles of increased volume at the gap fill buyers. It holds 8, had good volume off the open. This is only candle number 1 of the consolidation period. So boom, boom, boom. There's your 3 candles. Gaps up. Doesn't have the weakness to fill the gap at 805. Got as low as 809. But wicking up to this top, I'd say there is probably some levels it's going to need to work out. Just because this wick candle is coming in doesn't mean that later on in the week it can't push over top. So looking over at GNS, just looking at how this could play out, it is holding the level, holding 2 and continuing to hold 2. There's a lot of buying pressure holding it above 2. If this is able to take out the highs and actually put a nice green candle move through that, we're going to be trimming in front of 250s. But until that happens, we're kind of just sitting back. Workiva on a nice little pump. Let's take a look over at Workiva. A decent look, honestly, here on Workiva. Soundhound, we said that 242. Let's see if that 242 would have came on in. Let's see if that 242 would have came on in. Let's switch over to a 5-minute. And it would have got as, for sure, it would have got as low as 243. Let's switch over to a 1-minute. Nope, looks like 24. Oh, maybe. Maybe. You would have had to have the order there. You would have had to have had that order there, and or market order as soon as you see that tap. But look at that volume increase as soon as it tapped it. Boom. Shoom. But you can see the flat top there at that 42s. So would have been one that you know, we could have tested the waters on. It was putting up that nut up or shut up candle. That's why we call it that, because if you don't take that trade there, you risk it, you know, shooting up to the upside. Where if this got over top at 250, you know, we can just mark 250. Boom. Oh man, it is coiling to that. You can see the wedge pattern, so it doesn't need to pull back in. We can think about this name if it pulls back in, but it has a pretty decent look on the day. Let's take a look at ASTS. We did put an alert for this name at it should have been a 91. But looking at the daily chart on this, gives that negative break on strength if you were just being patient. Okay, here's where we reclaim positive. Boom, shows that level. Comes all the ways back in, now maybe setting a confirmed higher low. If we're looking at this as a neckline break, that is what the catalyst is. That 390 could be the start of something for maybe a test up to 4. You're going to have some resistance slightly above that 4 and those previous lows at 420. If it can fight over top of these highs, I wouldn't be surprised to see this maybe catch a bid up to that gap. But Devin wicking over that 51. Let's see what the 15-minute looks like here. Maybe an ABC retrace back to retest that neckline. Here's the neckline that we're kind of looking at. You can see it rejected it. Boom, takes it out. Now right back in, maybe test of this wick high. So I mean, if you were really uh, forcing yourself to get into an oil play, I would say Devon has a reasonable setup. NVAX green candle coming on in. So this is candle number 5. Nice green engulfing candle coming on in. GNS, is this, this is flirting with these wick highs. If it gets over 210, I would not be surprised to see it test up towards that 220 again. How much selling pressure is going to come from these wick tops up here? Wicking into that 210 for now. MKFG. Nice flat top break right there off the open candle. Decent move. GovX putting in another nut up or shut up candle. Here's your first nut up or shut up candle. Honestly, here's your first nut up or shut up candle when it takes out this flat top convincingly. If we just mark this and look at the volume, let's see what the volume increase looks like as soon as we take out 55s. You guys ready for this? We'll go to a 1-minute chart. Huh. The first volume increase that comes in is as soon as it takes out. Oh, never mind, never mind. It came over here. Sorry, 1-minute chart will start. We'll trick you. So maybe it was a 56 break, but this volume does start picking up as soon as it takes out this 55. Actually, intraday gaps to that level. But I would say GovX, GovEV has a reasonable chart setup. We go back over to the daily chart. You're getting your fresh positive break, taking out the highs. I wouldn't be surprised if this was also looked at as a downtrend break, sort of like that. You have the descending channel sort of look right there. But how else do you draw up a setup? I don't know how else you draw up a setup right here than this bull flag continuation, where had we had it on watch, I'm pretty confident we'd have an entry on it. Just because I say that doesn't mean that I'm the bee's knees, his legs, and his arms. I'm a superstar. I'm just kidding. But I wouldn't say that we'd be geniuses, but we could have tried it had we identified it. I'm looking on my 55-inch. What is, you can clarify what you mean. I'm looking on my 55-inch. Oh, your 55-inch screen TV? Okay. Uh, Personally, I like my monitors. I like my setup that I have right here. I got my nice desk, and just kind of looking back and forth between the two. Gotcha, gotcha. Um, yeah, I think that would put a lot of stress on my eyes. Not that I am not putting enough stress on my eyes already. No, I'm just kidding. Personal preference. But if that's what you like to do, whatever works for you, Charles. I'm not gonna knock you for anything. But GNS, we are gonna watch for this 210 break. It's rejecting it as of right now. That doesn't mean that it can't. With this nice green candle right here, this is another thing that I'll say, is that you should have pretty decent support off this body candle, which is a 2, and 2 has been the level that it's been trying to hold. I'm too broke for monitors. I can see everything. Uh, it's, it's about, I would say to that is, your life can always be changed. Whether So you're saying that you don't have the money for monitors. Well, what type of expenses can you cut down on your everyday life? Do you eat out fast food a lot? Do you have bad habits that take a lot of your money? Well, you can cut down on the fast food. You can go to the grocery store, buy more foods. That can be a way that you can cut down expenses. You can cut down on bad habits. For me, a bad habit of mine is I chew tobacco. So if I was ever in a scenario where uh, I felt I was low on cash, I gotta find ways to cut down on that habit, and I can use that excess cash to kind of save it, put some away, and then when the time comes when I feel I'm in a comfortable financial position, then I can set my eyes on something, maybe try to find a good deal. Maybe if you're looking at a monitor like this monitor I have in front of me, I got it on 25% sale. I was waiting for the deal. I got it, and I feel it's something that I use every day. So, the best investment that you can make, Charles, is investing in yourself, which is something that I probably don't do enough of. But uh, I uh, I would say that the best investment that you can possibly make is investing in yourself. GNS coming in. Let's see if this wicked buying. We should see a boom. Yep, just like that. Just like that. You should see a wicked buying right there. So if I was putting an order trying to get in on this, my first order right here would probably be coming in right off of that 2 with another order potentially right off that 2 flat. This is just saying if I wasn't in this right now, I would be looking at this as a potential area. So my 202 would have gave me a fill. I'd be sitting here waiting for this 2 to give me a fill, and boom, I wouldn't have got the fill. I would have missed that fill by a penny. Let's see if that can end up holding. I still think the area stays the same. If we can get over top of this 210, it looks pretty good. But a nice wick of buying coming into the middle of that green candle looks pretty darn good if you ask me. Now the candle's slightly turned green. 5 minutes left. This candle gives a nice green engulfing candle. It's going to be a beautiful wick into that green candle, but that volume is also going to be increasing, and we want this candle to be green. Now, if it's not green, it's not the end of the world. Laugh out loud. I'm just joking. I have kids. I would say that's probably a very expensive expense that is tough to kind of get away from. So, I tip my hat. Oh, ASTS giving me a crossover. Hold on. Wait a minute. Nut up or shut up candle coming on in. Now let's see if we can get a pullback candle. We can think about maybe trying this. Ooh, man, that gap up. No weakness at all. Back down to 375s. Giving it a little bit of a tiny slope up. This is early entries. By no means is this a drop in the bucket. This could easily reject this level and have to come back in. So from current price, your risk, if you're putting it underneath of the wick lows and running a hard stop, right now we're looking at 35 cents of risk. So for every lot that you go, you're looking at $35. Man, this looks pretty darn good. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but this nut up or shut up candle also has a nice volume increase coming on in. Oh boy. Is this going to be something that we potentially try? We can think about orders off in the middle of this. So let's see this wick low. You have good strength on your 15. Relative to what it's been trading in this sideways move is not a lot of volume increases. So yes, I would confirm that this is an early entry, and by no means is this a drop in the bucket. Also, not too much volume on this name, only 350K on the day. But this was a name that we made out pretty good on, and we've been really patient with it. You can see the uptrend that we have right here. This is when we were pretty much playing it. It gives you the gap down, not even on an earnings day. You probably had some people that were really bullish on the name, but we had beautiful outs into that 640 gap. We ended up getting stopped out. But it was a name that we made out very well on, and we've been very patient on this name. So, putting in this candle right here, is this going to be something that gets any increased move? You can see the bull flag, 1, 2 candles, not increased volume, but you do have increased red volume, wicking into the middle of this green move, potentially something here. I like the look. The only thing I don't like is the volume. You can see the consistently light volume. Is this going to fake out? Does it need to reject? I would say you probably have some resistance in right here. where it's currently trading at. But we might think about it. Oh boy, right when I'm looking at taking a trade, I gotta take this call. I'll be back. Don't lose faith in me. I'll be back. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Oh Jesus, he's calling me back. Hold on. Let me see what he wants. He didn't even mean to call me. Okay, we're back now. We should be back here for good. Charles, low volume, high price is bad. You can clarify what you're referring to when you say that, because I can give you multiple examples of that discredits that saying. So just because in some scenarios that low volume, high price is bad, doesn't mean that every scenario it is bad. So maybe you can clarify. If you're talking about this name, I would say volume here actually tells you a lot. You should be getting a close on the candle, but if this is your green move, even though yes, I do agree, it is light volume. But this volume candle tells you a lot when it exceeds over top of the green move. So these candles are your green move, and then here's your pullback candle, actually wick high. This volume candle showing you volume action above that is actually a bullish setup. So even if I went over the BVS, this only has 180K of volume. You can see beautiful. You don't even really have clear looks, but when this candle takes out your green candle high, so here's your high, boom, consolidation candle, and boom, and you can see right here this green candle taking out that high is actually a bullish setup. So even though the volume is very light, you are still getting that price action above. So if you were looking at that volume and trying to get like a 72, 4% in the money is a scenario. I thought you was referring to ASTS. Yes, it is light volume, and that's why I'd say it's sort of still an early entry. And I'm just kind of comparing that to the volume that it's been doing on this sideways action. But just because it's light right now, uh, we think that we have some resistance built up right in front of these fours. That doesn't mean that, it could break four and the right person in short on sort of this consolidation downward, maybe his out is four, and you see a lot of liquidity get grabbed when it claims four. So that's why I'd still say it's probably early entry, but there is a lot of good looks in this, and we are actually going to go try and punch in for some right now. Just an early entry level. If it needs to pull back in, we can think about adding more at sort of this flat top break that it has from the open. We know that people like the name right here. It even gives a test back into that sort of flat top. But when I say nut up or shut up candle, that means if I don't take the trade right here, I risk this actually breaking four, and for all I know, there's a lot of liquidity grab that comes over here to the right of the chart still. But let me be clear. Just because I'm dipping into this doesn't mean that like at the end of the day, you got to have your own conviction. Uh, so I mean, I make mistakes all the time, and even if I lose money on this, I wouldn't even look at it as a mistake. As long as I execute my plan with it, where right now, as of right now, my plan is to get an entry on this nut up or shut up candle, and then maybe hit another reload here, and then I have a gap fill right at these 75s. You can see off the open, it gaps up, doesn't have the weakness to come back in right here. I can think about maybe trying to reload this off of 75s, and then maybe after 75s, we add some true size off the neckline. Maybe we have one last fill down here at 64s where my out is going to be the wick lows. So as of right now, even if I were to lose money on this, as long as I execute my plan and go the way that I have it drawn up, and I don't stray away from that, I will take it as a lot of good positives and take the information and move forward with it. So that's one of the big problems that some people have, is that they're really scared to make money. So maybe or lose money. They're really scared to lose money. So they might take the fill right here, and they might not be willing to add more size to it right here. And then it catches a bid, and they're like, "Oh, I should have stayed true to my plan." That, to me, even though you'd make money off of this fill right here, you not executing the plan that you have drawn up, I would look at it as a negative. Even if you make money, there is always something that you can learn from and try to get better moving forward. That's what it's all about. So we still don't have this fill. We just missed those 90s, but we're gonna go in on some shares right here. That probably just gave us a 92 fill. We got 391.82, so we're gonna test that out, and we're gonna re-put this alert back in and look back at it if it retests into those upper 80s. And we might think of one more small add off this flat top. But we're going to wait for those 88s. So we could go on the bid right now, but if this wadunks right into that level, we probably won't. We'll wait for 82s, or maybe in front of it a little bit. Looking at GovEV, that's what I call a nut up or shut up candle. Boom. If you don't take this trade right there, you risk it shooting. And this is a beautiful example of volume giving you the tell. You're breaking over top your flat top. Boom. Consolidation candle. When you take out the high, look at the volume increase from here to here. 2 candles of green move, 1 pullback candle, tries to get back into the flat top where we were thinking about it, and then puts in another nut up or shut up candle. Now on this next candle right here, you see the volume increasing even higher than this 55 break. You see that? That's where the volume can tell you a lot. But yeah, probably a little bit late to this move. If we had our eyes on this, at that 55 break, we'd probably have an entry on it. So it kind of sucks that we don't. But good stuff to learn off right there, and that's a prime example of where the volume can show you that, hey, this was giving you all the signs of continuation down here, and then also more signs of continuation when it takes out the high on this next nut up or shut up candle. That's what I call it. By no means is that an accurate term to use, but that's what I call it. So let's look back at ASTS. A penny, a little bit in the money, okay. We still think that this is pretty early entries. If it's going to give us this neckline break right here, it's going to break 4. So let's see if we can close above 4 today. That's all we're going to be looking for. Let's close out everything on that. That's looking a little bit sloppy. Soundhound coming back in, rejecting sort of this flat top right here. So let's look at this. There's your nut up or shut up candle. You have one pullback candle wicking down towards 43s. I would say, this is potential trade if it wicks into those 42s. If you think it has the weight to push this, I want to see it reject 250s, come back in one more time. Maybe have to test this original flat top break right here at 36s. But I'm very intrigued with how that's looking. But ASST, I gotta get that on the. There she is. Let's move that up into stocks for today, and that way we can keep an eye on that a little bit better. Looking back at GNS, you can see holding above that 202, so a great start, but still wicking up towards that 210. Isn't going to be able to push that 210s and give that continuation. That's what we're going to be looking for. Nothing over in the chat. Yeah, I hope that makes sense, Charles. I'm not saying it in a negative way, but I don't want you to confuse sort of what I'm looking at. Yes, I would prefer it to have volume, uh, but this is a name that I've actually been watching for a long time, so it's hard for me to come in and say differently. I actually looked into a little bit of the company, and it's a company that doesn't even have revenue yet. Uh, but there's a lot of funding, there's a lot of opportunity and partnerships with AT&T in terms of satellite. I forget the product name, but I've put a little bit of time into this, and by no means are the company's financials just golden. I would say they're actually pretty crappy in terms of share dilution. You have senior notes that have been made as well. Uh, that are executable through the year 2027. So I'm expecting continued share dilution, but just the setup. We're just trading the setup for an early entry right here. If we can get this neckline break, by all means, I'd still say it has a good deal of resistance in past these fours, like 405 to 420. Mr. Drift, good to have you back, brother. We took a fill on ASTS. Put in this nut up or shut up candle. We were kind of explaining why we liked it when it was tapping these 390s, but I wanted to get 390s. We got 391.82s, so by no means is it anything to brag about, and it's just our first fill. That first fill that we make, we just kind of get in a position. We got to make sure that, if this nut up or shut, and, back to Gov EV, go EV. Look at that. Look at that candle. We identified it just from something that we thought could move. And, we never got that trigger of 56s and to test this previous high. I'm not going to take the trade up higher. No issues. Yeah, no, I always want to be transparent about what I'm doing, and I never want to do anything to mislead any of the viewers, because I mean I've seen it before. I've been watching people trade, and they will mislead people to the fullest, and they have no regards for the people that are watching, and it absolutely disgusts me. Absolutely disgusts me. And if it was a scenario where they end up losing money, they really don't even they the risk that they have compared to the people that are watching, it absolutely disgusts me. It's actually one of the main reasons why I got into doing this. So I don't ever want to be misleading to anybody on the channel. That is not what the focus of this channel is. This channel is not for personal gain. Eventually it probably does get to a point where it is personal gain, but that is not why I do this. I do this for the love of just showing examples of what I'm looking for, what I like to do. And GNS breaking over that 210. Let's see if this has any weight till we have 4 minutes left, and you can see this candle really got going as soon as it broke over that. Let's look at that real break. Talk about marking a level, and look at that volume increase on 1 minute candle as soon as it does that. That is confirmation of just, mark a level out and see what the volume tells you when you break over something like that. But a very nice look to start off right here. Let's look at the 15-minute. Yeah, a beautiful candle. We have 3 minutes left in this candle. I wouldn't be surprised to see this maybe tap up to these 220s on this current candle. But let's see if the volume can really keep coming on in. Let's see the volume on this nice green candle. We want to see this green candle exceed this one over here. So that's 309K. We're at 245K right now. So let's see, and washout top. And the only thing that I would say to this washout top is, one, washout top, be careful. If I had this 202 entry right now, I'm more inclined to get a trim right here. Even if I didn't get a trim right here, I'm more inclined to trim this 210 level. Which, I probably, if I'm this late to the entry, I probably would have already trimmed 210. But giving that washout top look, when it gave that washout top look, the volume was still at 245K. Now we're at 314K. Where 245 is still less than 309, but now we're right back above 210, and the volume at 321K exceeding this 309K. So leaving a green candle like this, we have 2 minutes 30 seconds left. I'm expecting this volume to keep pushing up. Let's see it get up closer to this. We'll start with 500K, but this green candle right here is 861K. And what I want to see when this candle breaks or takes out these wick highs, I want to see that volume get way up into this range where this candle is 1.5 mil, this candle is 2.05 mil. But still trying to leave that washout top. We have 2 minutes left. I would love to see this candle close above 210. The CEO of GNS talked with the CEO of Overstock and is doing the same thing to get the share price to at least 10. That's great news, Charles, but it holds no regard to how I play this position. I honestly I don't want to sound like a dick, or I don't want to sound negative in any way, but I could care less about all of that. But I mean, if you're long and you are looking to hold this long term, regardless of what the price action does, maybe that is good news. And ASTS coming back in to test this flat top, light volume. We're gonna punch in for a little bit more size right here, but after this, we're gonna be done. Probably buying it for the day. I could try and throw that order off 88s, but let's just go ahead and get one more fill on this name and see if we can get some continuation to the upside. So let's see where that fill came in at. That fill came in at 389s. So we got 389s right now. Looks like we have a few on the ask at these 90s. Let's see if it can close above that. We have 1 minute left on this candle, and it crossing over those 89s temporarily. So let's see if this can catch any type of a bid. 40 seconds left. I'd like to see a wick start wicking into these highs right here. $25 seconds left. We have 415K. I wanted to see it at 500 with a close above 210. Let's see if we can get that. Not giving me a close above 210 right here is a little bit concerning, but doesn't mean that it can't pull back in and just continue holding twos. We're right at 210s. Go figure. I want to see this next candle open. Show me. Okay, we got a 211 close. That is good. That checks the box there. A nice, healthy green candle. Still a little bit of wick of pressure, which leads up a little into all of these wicks. So now let's clear out everything. Let's reset. From this information right here, I can see we have buying pressure off 202, which is the body candle high. I want to mark the body of this, which is 208. I want to see 208s continue to hold. If I was a late enter into this and I have this type of information, one, I got to be worried about that sort of wick top made right there. But if I really wanted to force myself into this position, I'd have orders off 208. So if it triggers 208, let's see it wick up into that area. But I would say you have a little bit of leeway to the body of this red candle right here, which is also the middle of this green move. So let's see if this can play out and keep showing that continuation. ASTS 388s. It is a new position, so by no means do I have to stay true to my plan. If I was running a tight stop, I'd probably go 83s, maybe underneath 82s. But I think this is a decent setup still, even though it's not getting any wick buying from those tops. But we aren't going to be opposed of if this is a true rejection of this sort of flat top area. You can see it showing that wick. If this one needs to come back in to 75, so getting out early could be our best friend, where we don't even have to play 375s if we have to. But we are going to keep this one on watch. I would have wanted to see a little bit more wick buying off those tops. But this is only candle number 2. Even underneath 86 would be a little bit concerning. If we were just going to take a loss on it, now is going to be the time where we can go underneath 84s or 83s. But not showing me any type of buying for continuation could be a little concerning. Let's just put an alert underneath 85s just in case we need to change our minds on this one. GNS wicking towards that 08. Did it get to 09s? It did. It started at 09s. My bad. But showing a little bit of buying pressure into the middle of that green move. 12 minutes left on this candle. A lot of time. Nickel is still holding around that 120 range. To me, this just looks like something that I wouldn't even want to look at anyway. So let's just go ahead and take this off the list. I don't think it deserves to be there on there anymore. GNS, we still think there's some potential on this today, or not today, this week. So we'll leave that on there. GFAI, they have earnings coming up. We just want to see how this, it does have a neckline here at these 20s. Maybe if it shows me some action off that, maybe could be something. Just maybe. I'm not going to say that it is. The go-to. GNS up to 12s. Are we going to see this candle meet? If this candle increases on volume from the previous candle, we're pretty confident we're going to see a nice little pump right here. WBD still holding 1250s. DFS right around the 90 level. BAC retesting the neckline actually on BAC. A little bit below it. Pretty much right at it. But pulling all the ways back in. 1, 2, 3. Fourth candle giving a bear flag kind of continuation. Does it discredit that? It'd have to get over 85s for it to discredit that. ASTS wicking towards those 86s. So, I mean, still could be something here. I don't know. It's tough to say. No, I appreciate your candor. I'm not even sure the true definition of candor, but I think with the situation of how you're using it, I may be able to take a guess. But no, I'm not trying to, add any negative. I know you're in off 89 cents, or was it 88 cents, I believe. So, I mean, it's a completely different scenario. But for me, news does not hold very much regard. I don't really hold too much regard for news unless it's talking about something fundamentally with the company, where maybe you're talking about a share buyback, or maybe you're talking about a product and you have some sort of outlook on what type of margins that product has, or maybe you're talking about a dividend, which then I'd look towards the free cash flow. Okay, is it a dividend that they can afford? I like that type of news. When you're talking about the fundamentals and the financials of the company, that would change an outlook for me. For me, GNS isn't a play that I'm looking at as a fundamental company. So regarding what the company does in the news, or what's happening when what type, the news sometimes in a way will follow the stock price. So I'm not surprised that news isn't coming out when honestly your true positive breakdown here is down at 78 cents. So I'm not surprised that that is the type of catalyst that you're getting when you're at 2. So that all has to be taken into consideration. And honestly, if there was a news catalyst like that I'd hold weight to, it would actually lean me to selling it up here instead of thinking more bullish. But that's why I just don't look at it at all. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to try and decipher what it means. I don't want to hear anything about it, honestly. That's kind of what I've embedded into myself. All that matters right here from this on this current candle is if more liquidity is bought than sold, the price will go up. If more liquidity is taken off the books than bought off the books, the price will go down. That's the only thing that I care about right now. And honestly, we're not thinking about liquidating anything. With the entry down here that we have at 122s, 122 to 124. Uh, all we're focused on is getting trims at levels. So we trim the levels to the upside, and if it comes back into support levels, which I'd say potentially a 165 retest of these tops. Maybe if you look at it as a flat top 150, okay, we can think about reloads, but that's why we get trims on it up here so that we can afford to reload it here. We can afford to reload it here. We got a gap at 146. Maybe we can afford to test it right there as well. So we'll see. By all means, we got 194s, we got 207s, and we got 222s. So we got a couple prints on the name, and we're still holding the good size of the position. I think 44%. So we'll see if we can get continuation move or not. Regardless of what it doesn't really matter to me. We have a plan for each direction. If it keeps going higher, great. If it wants to break down, great. GFAI is just a nothing burger down here at these 20s. Oh, this is GSIT. Yeah, I just don't see this being able to hold this. It doesn't, I mean, you could say it has some lows down here. Yeah, I just don't see it yet. So maybe we can take this off. I'd be a lot more intrigued with this amps, where I would have a lot more trust in this over ASAT. Honestly, with it wicking into those mid 90s, I would say this is probably a nothing burger. It has to retest down here, where down here it's a flat bottom break. But if it does pan out, it's going to break over those fours. So by all means, I wouldn't say that this is anything even worth looking at, honestly. But here I am. I got 2 entries on the name. So we'll see. We will see. DVN, putting a hammer candle on the 15, potential ABC sort of retracement, potentially actually into an uptrend, maybe an uptrend break. But if I was marking just the wick lows from this, could be something that's brewing right there. Just leaving a parallel channel. That could be the wicks that it was trying to hold right there. Breaking the channel, try the wick into it, fails it, maybe a hold. How does it act at a retest of 51? We'll see. I like the name Devin. We got our position how we like it right now. So if it wants to come back in right here, great. We have a plan for it. If it wants to push up for this gap, okay, maybe we can start trimming the name a little bit up there. We will see. We will see. Mara, this neckline break right here is legit though. So down at 1050, how does this kind of bear flag setup pan out? Does it need to get into the bottom of the range? I don't think there's anything like a trend line right there. It looks decent, but I wouldn't say that's anything worth holding weight to. I think at this point you'd be basically just trying this level, which it's wicked into a couple times. It's just a weak name. Is it too early for the fill or not? I'd say when looking at Mara, you got to keep an eye on BTC, and I would say this looks like a flat bottom break setting up. You got the increase. I mean, talk about a bear flag setup right here. Here's your increasing volume. If this was flipped upside down and these were green candles with increased volume, and I seen this sideways chop, I would be thinking, if it was upside down, I'd be thinking, but I mean, not only that, but you have a true trend line break on that volume increase. So, maybe it holds this level and has to catch a bid, but this is where I'd actually be looking for a bigger, a harder resistance level off 28K, where I don't see it yet. I would be inclined to say, hey, let's go back and retest the neckline at 18K. So I don't know what that says for all crypto, but I would say BA or BTC, you know, maybe it has some support, and some of these previous highs over here at the 25s. Okay, maybe that's a catalyst for a washout bottom on this flat bottom break where you hold and then catch a bit. I don't know. Also, weak name on this bear flag type of setup. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. GNS still right around this area, so kind of a stair step look. I don't want to see this previous high kind of give up. That would kind of take out the catalyst for a move higher. This ASTS wicking into those 87s, giving up these wick lows a little bit, but wicking into it, I don't know. Clearly, the candle I should have put more thought to was this Go EV. Clearly, you know, just from the washout top right there. Nice little trade could have been made. That was the one that I liked though. Soundhound, yeah, given that stair step look, yeah, that's not a good look. Stair step look, you know, maybe you have some sort of trend line that can still hold, but I think we're going to be patient on this. This gives the look like, okay, let's build the wedge pattern all the ways up to this level. Let's trade back down into these 30s. Maybe we can think about it here, or maybe just a little bit higher if it gives us a level and then set the higher low. Boom, take that neckline break, and then maybe, you know, maybe that neckline break comes in at the same exact price that we're at. Who knows? But I think we're at the time where we gotta take a look at the work schedule for today. So let's go see. We'll keep it on GNS for time being here. Gave that washout bottom. Look at that buying pressure come in at a 203. So good buying pressure coming in there. We now have a candle close. So let's take a look back over at ASTS. You know, light volume. You know, it's a little concerning that it wasn't able to hold these 89s. The go-to. How come every time this name gets going, it just always goes? Every time it gets going, boom. Every time it gets going, boom. Every time it gets going, boom. Every time it gets going, pretty early. Pretty early start, giving a positive break leading up to the earnings report. This go-to, I would say, if I was looking for one that wasn't super volatile, and you know, you could run a hard stop, you know, that might seem crazy, but you can respect the levels on the downside if it comes on in. Down here at these false wick throughs 3, I would be treating this like a potential double bottom, maybe. Uh, I would say go to uh, Tech EDU, kind of those EDU names. What does EDU look like? It's been a while since I looked at EDU. I don't even think it's on the watch list. Oh boy, I don't know if you're there, Drift, but when I tell you I had size on one down here, we had freaking size on this one that we averaged into over the course of like 3 months. And I think my chart setup is, it's not even on my watch list. That's how long it's been since I've even looked at this name. And all we did was mark that gap right there. All we did. And oh boy, it looks possible now, doesn't it? Man, these size we had on this position, man. It would have been a long time coming. Hindsight. Hindsight. Yeah, I'm here. Man, Drift, that's why I have go-to on here, because you can see, I mean, they're competitors. You can see the same exact gap. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. 950. There you go, 178%. Wouldn't be surprised. Opera, weak name, not yet, not yet. ASTS catching a smaller bid. Okay, so not feeling as terrible about it now. And here's 90s coming right back into that 34. I would expect it to take a little while to trade sideways a little bit. GNS, I'd say this is a little bit more bullish to me. You see this one consolidation candle, you have the wick washout bottom of the previous candle gets bought up quick. 203 as that low. But anything above this 210, I would say I wouldn't be surprised to see a large green candle come on in with this name. So that's what we're going to be watching. It's a big difference. 6% compared to all these are 3 to 2%. CDIO also here, but very light volume. At least is, for a 12-cent name, maybe 2 million in volume is kind of crummy. But all the candles look decent. It's not like choppy. Like if I click on CDIO, you'll see what I mean. Where'd that CDIO go? There it is. See how those candles look like crap? At least there's liquidity enough for whole candles to get a decent feel for. You are out of that oversold area. Is this knife ready to give you a pop? Maybe one more leg down, we can think about it. But by no means is this a financially sound company. I'm just saying that it has been getting clobbered. You thought MULM was getting clobbered. Go take a look at that today too. Down 12% today. Yeah, with this is given the move already. I wouldn't be surprised to see this giving out the lows. But you do have, just this. I'm not trusting this volume increase here because of its indecision. It's indecision. I don't like that whatsoever. This was actually a red day, even though it shows you a green candle. And a lot of these, I just don't even like that. That lost 7% on the day, even though it traded almost a third, almost 33% more volume. GNS is starting to get going. Here's 217s. Really starting to get going here. As long as it doesn't just wick back in down to a wick low. That is a nice look. We have 9 minutes left on this candle. This volume, let's see it exceed. Start with 433K, but let's see it get up closer to that million in trading. If it can do that, which it still has over half the time left, we're already at 250. I'd expect a little bit of selling pressure here into these 220s, 219s. NVAX really kind of giving up the ghost. I would say you have a tight channel. Look at the daily candle for it. Shoom, washout. But trading back in this level, I still think 8 is reasonable hold level. Looking at this, we talked about it when the price was there. Outs in front of that 9 don't look half bad. And you could see it when it was starting to really wick top up there. Even this indecision candle, outs underneath of that wick for a trim could have been something I played it differently at. But we're still going to be patient with this name just because a lot of reds coming on in, probably a lot of selling pressure from, maybe some people were expecting the move to happen right away. We'll let them have the butterfingers. If this pans out how we think, this 905 is actually going to be a neckline break. And this shows you good. There's your flat bottom. You test up to it. You hold the level. You test up, build a neckline at this 850 range. Trade back down, hold. And then when you reclaim that 850, boom, you shoot up to this. You test it. Maybe it has to trade into the middle of the green move that happens. And then you see it set another higher low. And then boom, as soon as it takes that out, boom, before you know it, you're up testing the highs, and then before you know it, maybe it has to show some resistance in this 950, but before you know it, boom, it gives you a nice little U shape, and off to the races it goes. So, I mean, from where our entry's at, we're okay. We've already added into the equation that, it might even need to come down and test the neckline. But if that's the case, you can see that neckline is your last retracement. There's your 702. So a leg down, makes sense. We can see a catalyst for it to have to do that. But still up 2.25% today. We're not gonna make it seem like it's the end of the world. We held it all the way through that. If we're able to do that and actually set a decent support level, we're not even gonna be worried until it takes out this, and actually meets up right at the 618. So a triple bottom into the 618. All it would take is a hold of the 618. Who knows? That could be the low. So let's get that out of the way. GNS is what the rave is going to be about right now. Still holding a nice green candle, 320K volume. Clearly majority green buying pressure. ASTS back up to our first fill, a nice green candle coming in there, so making me feel a lot better about the two fills that we have, and maybe this just gives us a catalyst to, okay, we can hold it down into the trend line now, just because it showed me a little bit of buying pressure. But GNS, this is what all the attention is going to be for me right now. Let's see if we can get this breakout. I can think about trimming some of this wick, but we already got the 22 fill. We got a 207 fill as well, so we're not really trying to exit too much of our liquidity on the name. So let's just look at the daily candle. That 250, these wick highs, this is 230, so maybe that's what it's rejecting right now. But I would say that 250 has some resistance. If we can catch a bid, those wick bottoms, this is going to be our next selling window. Maybe I can mark that wick top. Wick tops right there, wick tops right there. So I'm more inclined that since we've already trimmed these 22s, maybe I can take one more fill, respect the 50s, and then wait for some of these levels to come on in. But that's how we're going to play it for right now. We're going to be greedy. We're going to show some greed. We'll probably look back and say, man, I wish I trimmed some there. Well, you can always look back in hindsight and say something. But this is the plan that I've set out, and I'm going to try and follow that plan the best of my ability. ASTS, a nice green candle coming in right here. If it were to take out this high, I want to see somebody in short off these wicks. So by no means is this out of the red area yet, but I would say that this is a nice green candle coming on in. It's candle number 3, gives an intraday gap 1 penny and shows that move. We can see that there's at least some people that have this name on their watch list with us. We think it's early entry, just giving a small slope up, but this is the neckline we're trying to play right here. If it can show us a move over top of 96 and 94, we think we'll get a test of 4 at the very least, but we have these previous low wicks and your previous body candle wicks right here. So 405 to 420 probably has more resistance built in on it, but that is the only new position that we have today. Looking elsewhere on this watch, amps is the only one I'm really trying to make sure I keep an eye on that one. You can see the catalyst of the wedge pattern coming on in. If it wants to break over top of this 650 range, I think 650 is breakout level. You're confirmed above these lows right here, which it's wicking into. That's a 641. Maybe you have some wick pressure right here and a flat top here at 675. So maybe first outs on that 650 break, we're looking for 675s. But after that, we're looking for continuation. We liked the earnings report. We skimmed through it. There was some good positives with it, but holding that trend line on a red engulfing on earnings day, given a move, a confirmed higher low, the move Friday kind of taking out the neckline, respecting the downtrend, doesn't need to trade in first. But at 650, I think that's the area that we're going to be looking for. So let's just clear out. That's the only other name that we're kind of keeping an eye on. But that's for new position wise. GNS, we're in no hurry to exit anything on this name. That's the goal. Get the entry. No, my bad. Get the entry on an early 120 break. I even have some reloads in right here at 122s. Hold over 50% into the close. We got a pre-market fill at 94s. We got 207s and 222s. We're showing some greed on this name, so that's what we're looking for. ASTS continuing the push up, showing me 93, so at least 92s are on the bid. DFS reclaiming 90s. There's your previous lows. Reject, gap up, gives it up, reject, boom, shows as support at those 89.50s. Beautiful look. Warner Brothers holding above 50s is pretty solid in my opinion. BAC holding above that previous low and your neckline, very good look. End phase, nice uptrend. I'd expect that uptrend to get broken. How does it act down here at these lows again? That's where we're going to be interested. Devon wicked into the previous highs, has a descending channel that's probably going to have to fight through, but we already got the entry on the name. We're just being patient with it. Geo probably going to break down 7s. Neo earnings tomorrow, but you can see if we just get rid of this, I don't like the way that looks. We adjusted our trend line to the open of the day. How does the earnings act? Do we get a gap up confirming underneath of this tight channel to the downside? Not a perfectly set channel by any means, but a nice support level. We say the big players are around that middle ground. A little bit negative, but that doesn't mean that it can't reclaim that positive on this earnings report. If that is the case with Neo, the way we're going to be looking at it is we can be patient for this entry, and if we get the move we think is possible, your last retracement meeting up at this gap, we think this can give a 702 retrace. So that's going to be one that we keep an eye on. FER, we're just seeing if it can hold this channel. Other than that, GM, we'll wait for this to come back in the 22s or 32s. That's what we're waiting for there. Ford's a little bit lackluster, but kind of giving that same look. 1150s on Ford is what we're going to be trying to get. GNS, I thought maybe if I just looked away from it for a little while that this would start giving me a move. We got the open of the next candle. Volume fairly identical with this candle. 440K. Let's see this candle. I want to see a back-to-back candle. Let's see this candle exceed the previous candle as well. That's what we're going to be hoping for. I forget that name Hal was looking at. Was it GNC? Is that what it was? No, it wasn't GNC. What was that name Hal was looking at early in the day? GDC. GDC. Really not a half bad look. Holding the level. Is this going to be a neckline break right here? Let's see some daily levels on this name. I hate these. I hate these. I always trade them wrong. And they always just seem to end up stopping me out. So, I mean, if this came back in the 4, maybe my risk reward is a little bit better. We can give 14 cents of risk. But I just don't like it. I don't have any true levels to go off of volume-wise either. It's just a bag of nothing right here, and then boom. So, probably some news catalyst driving it as well. What do you think, Drift? Toss me a ticker, Drift. Toss me something. Just a company that you've seen on your way down the road. What's a company close to where you live? I'll take a look at it. I need something to entertain myself. DFCO. Let's take a look at her. DFCO. We got Dalrada Financial Corp. OTC market as well. Not something that I'm going to be interested in taking a day trade off of. But let's see what the daily levels are looking like. You know, the daily level, you got a nice positive break. You got a nice flat top. I'm intrigued there. So here's your nut up or shut up candle. 1, 2, 3. After that, you get the gap down, but trying to be bought up right here. It showed the strength to actually fill this gap. So I'd look at that as positive. Very light volume. I will have to think on that one. I know this is all right. This is honestly a very nice flat top that's trying to break over. It's just the name is, close to profitable. No earnings to worry about. It's just the chart is just a little bit choppy for my taste. But I'm not going to say that this is a nice volume increase relative. Here's it got going over here, kind of light volume through this move, and then gets going again, testing this flat top. It has a legitimate flat top here at these 18 cents. OTC market on top of it, I just would be a little bit concerned. I mean, each one of these candles is very, very light volume. But I think the daily setup has its case. It has a case on the daily setup. I'm probably not going to go into the financials for it. But I will say that it probably has a potential uptrend that needs to be made. Even though you could call this 2 points of contact, I would say this is 1 point of contact right here. So 1, 2, how does that third point of contact work? If it gives you a pop and then comes back into it, that fourth point of contact would be what I'm looking for. If this was a retracement play, okay, let's look at it from this point of view. Taps that 702 on the money. If this is a retracement play, there's your 14 coming close to that neckline. So I would actually be looking for this to break down. Even I'm not saying it's going to do that, but I would be looking for this to break down, show me that third point of contact, catch a little bit of a bid, and then boom. That's where I'd want to take it right there. Right there. But who knows? I do think that there is a catalyst for continuation. Not terrible. Not bad, Drift. GNS still trying to continue catching. If it can close above 210, 210 is almost a line in the sand right here. Which is it going to give some wicks up towards these 20s? Maybe, maybe. GM, I would say based off of this look, it could have a actual trend reversal type of setup right here. You see how it cones like that? A lot of times that gives me the feel like, okay, we need to break this and come back into this move a little bit. So if I was looking at a retracement, that move coming in to a 3250 seems reasonable. There's your 702, your last retracement, part of the last bit of that green move. But I'd be looking at this as a buying opportunity right here in front of 50s. Maybe you can try the support level. I'll be right back though. I gotta go to the bathroom. Coffee's flowing through me. Be right back. And we are back. Looks like we didn't miss anything yet on GNS. My bad. Trying to hold that previous high. I would say the more it gives this look is maybe it needs to curl back in. Potential sort of channel trying to be built, sort of like that. You have some wick tops above it. But if I was looking at taking a position on it today, this is probably how I'd have it set. I don't, because that's the beauty of having the entry. But eh, is it going to give you a break today? We've already given the catalyst. If it gives us a break higher, if it gives us a break lower, we have a plan for both ways. In terms of new position, this ASTS is a new position for us today. I think you were gone for that explanation, Drift. But we looked at it as an early entry. If we can get our neckline break, it probably has to wick into this area first, maybe pull back in to 375s. But we took a couple fills on it, nothing too crazy yet. And by no means, if it comes in the 375, oh, slam the buy. No. Uh, this is just a name that we did really well with on the channel. We did really well with it over here. We did really well with it over here. So I mean, we're just playing it accordingly. We've been really patient on the name. We didn't even buy any on the exit of oversold, but gave you a nice little pop. Now it's holding above that oversold. If this is a name that's going to give a positive break, this neckline is the early entry. So if it doesn't give me that 4 break today, we actually might even think about cutting the name. But we'll see. That in terms of all the other title names, we've been talking about them for weeks. You know it, Drift. Talking about them for weeks, and some of them are panning out. Some of them we're still just waiting for. I've been waiting to put PayPal on that title. Just been so patient with it. We just finally get an exit of our oversold, trying to hold that oversold. If this is a bull flag, 1, 2, 3. If it's going to give that breakout, we're looking for it to give that break tomorrow or the following day. So maybe it is a title name tomorrow. Who knows? But fighting with those previous lows, Just to be safe, I'd put it underneath this red candle. It wicks into it, gives up the ghost, wick, wick, wick. If it's going to break it, it's going to be that 62 break, call it, give or take. But if it comes on in this 59.50, we're not going to be able to resist. If we see 59.50 on PayPal, we're going to be buying that gap. GNS, giving up that 210 level. This is an area where if I got a fill on this today, I'm putting. What happened to my 21? Let's go adjust that right now. There we go. This is an area that I would have wanted to see it give some momentum to the upside. So all in all, I would probably, if I had a gun to my head, say that this could potentially end up breaking down this 2 level where you see a 1-2 red candle come in, maybe catch a small pop, but then boom, you get a red candle come on in, and maybe we have to retest these highs from the 14th. Maybe there is some built-in support there at these wick highs at 75s, maybe. But if this was going to go, this red candle, I'd have a hard time thinking that this red candle would be a red engulfing candle through the previous move, which had the stair step. So it gives me the feel that this could be the wick top, but that doesn't mean that we're going to exit it. We're gonna just give it time. We have 3 fills on the name. Maybe we can put a stop underneath these wick lows and just stop for a trim at these 94s. If I wanted to run a harder stop, we can go 85s. But ASTS, getting some wick buying into the middle of that green move, it doesn't look like a large moving candle, but the volume actually partially increasing a little bit. So there is some hope for continuation. We'll see if this breaks forward today. That's what we're going to be looking for. Take a look back at BGLC. Gives you that U, boom, move up to those highs. Is this going to be a good enough support level at these 150s? 150s would probably be where I put that order at if I was going to try it, but I'm not going to try it. I wouldn't be surprised to see continuation. We look over at the daily. It could potentially be giving that slope up, but I would say this is flat bottom break. That's continuing the reject right there. So with that wick going up right to that sort of flat bottom break, I just don't like that setup. I'd rather buy it higher on like a 2 break. But GNS coming on in. As soon as it was giving up that, and here's that second red candle that's coming on in. Do we wick into this? I don't know. I would say that this has the setup like it's going to, have to trade down first. But it is wicking into that level for right now. Someone on this podcast is talking about, oh, we're rejecting 15K, it's the end of the world. Well, it's still actually holding the gap, so I mean, it gaps up. Yeah, God, I'm just not a fan. I just kind of have it in the background for the news. But honestly, I would say that it actually tested the downtrend. That's what it needs to do if it's ever going to break it. It's got to test it. Oil giving you that wick into that level. The only thing you need to really know is upper 70s. If we see 80, 78s printing on oil, we're going to be looking for some oil plays. So, I'm kind of rooting for it to trade down into those upper 70s. And this is candle number 3. You see the pull. You see the 1, 2, 3. Maybe it actually needs a 4th. Maybe it does need a 4th. I don't know. But we like the look on oil, and I don't think we're in a position where we're going to even be trimming any oil plays. That's personal opinion, of course, but go EV. Look at that candle. Weekly still negative, but the daily candle shows you the story. I mean, what better breakout level than that 55? Those are the gems that you're looking for. So I kind of kicking myself for not, being in on this name. Soundhound still holding 42s, surprisingly. I can't even believe that. Giving you the stair step, probably still has some sort of uptrend. I would say if you were looking for something, that's not a half bad look. Volume's there as well. You have 8 mil traded. It's probably not too late for the go-to. C limited, giving a break of that downtrend. See what the daily's looking like here. Still a weak name. Let's see it trade sideways. We'll think about trying it again. That reminds me, what are some of the top losers doing? It's been a while since we looked at the top losers. FFIE giving a share split. Straight to the downside. It never fails. You see something share split, get out. Share split, reverse share split, just hop out of it. Hop out of it. It's not worth it. Every time. It does not fail. Every single time. Every time. You find me one where it reverse share splits and gets a pump, maybe it does on one day, but then right back down to the level. That is hilarious. Not if you're long. I don't think it's funny when people are long, and unless it's Tesla. Just kidding. PWM. It printed in the fives. It printed in the fives. Keep this puppy on watch. Keep that gap. That's all you need marked. At 550, you could say 550 as well. We're going to put an alert on GNS. We'll think about getting another trim on the name if that does want to fill. GNS still trying to hold these two levels. You know, does it have any pressure off those 208s? The 208s is probably going to get rejected. BGLC wicking into that 50 level. Nice continuation on MKFG. Soundhound. Oh man, I mean, I don't know how else you draw something up better than that. I mean, that 240 hold right there is pretty legit. Excuse me. HBI, not a half bad look looking at it from that perspective. You know, even looking at it from the long perspective, it's still holding good strength. You have a trend line right here. Breaking downtrend right at a level, which is also a previous flat top, which this is why I like trading it when it breaks that previous low. Reject, 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 reject. You see the coil pattern and boom. That was the day. That was your nut up or shut up candle. Pulled right back in on the earnings day. Caught a nice bid up to those 550s. Now pulling right back into the trend line again. And now catching a small bid. HBI, not a half bad look. Mr. Drift, good to have you back, brother. No, but back to this HBI, you know, it is fighting above those previous lows and breaking a downtrend as well. If we go back to that 15-minute, you can see that sort of flat bottom break right there. I'd start with this wick candle, kind of tries the hold, but then boom, reject, reject. Now it breaks over top, hold, hold. You see the difference? I would say this actually isn't a half bad setup. Does it need a little bit more time to solidify this uptrend though? You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of contact. Very sustainable trend line that's trying to hold, and it's meeting up right around this 5 level. Not a half bad look on HBI. But back to a GNS. I can't even believe I'm looking at this. But holding as a green candle, a nice hold at 2. Is this something that's going to be? I mean, it's building this sort of coil pattern, which could trade sideways for a long time. But I would like to see it just discredited as fast as it possibly could. ASTS. Uh, Testing up at those 394s. Do we get a break up to 4 today? I mean, looking at your big tech, it's kind of a nothing. Kind of just a nothing right here. Oil's kind of a nothing as well. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities later on in this week, so we're not really trying to force ourselves into making decisions today. But I'd say a really notable move is that Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers are really nice setup. You know, we said that, hey, we wouldn't be surprised if this turned into a boom breakdown. Well, now it's just holding above those 1250s, putting in a nice green candle. Still just been really light volume, and looking relative to what it's been doing. You know, this move obviously you can see an increase in influx of volume. But I think that influx in volume would come if this ever broke over top of 1280s. Let's look at some of these top losers again. We feel we have time. Nicola, we're out of it. We're glad that we're out of this name. We just don't nothing to do with it anymore. Yeah, we just want nothing to do with it anymore. It just gave that look like this was gonna be a slow chop to the downside. It does wick to those 117s. We know it has a 116 gap. So I mean, by all means it could end up holding that. I'm sure if we go over here we can see it. Gaps up from right there. 116. We can mark that if we want to. At 116, you can see it getting very, very close to it. So I mean, if it fills that, catches a bid, so be it. If it fills that and breaks it down, we could be seeing this name print in the 90s, which would be an extraordinary move to the downside thinking of it right now, but that is a decent support level. So maybe if it comes back into 91, we can think about it. PWM. You guys want to take a guess where we're trying this puppy at? Bet your sweet bottom we're trying it down here at 550. We are going to try the knife on a name we don't even have 50 days of trading on. We're going to try it. We'll probably run tight stops underneath 450. Not tight stops, we'll run a deep stop. Looking at some of these other movers, Boyle actually giving up the ghost. Nice trend line hold. Kind of gapping up above the level. Didn't quite fill that gap, but this trend line, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 points of contact. Maybe if you're calling this only not a point of contact right there, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3. So if it pulls back in, I'd say not a half bad risk reward. You can run the last fill off that gap and then run your tight stop underneath 53s. But I think we're going to stick long with this. It has the setup like it wants to test up and build that flat top in the mid 70s. AMD did wick, we did see this on Friday, it wicked into that flat top. I'm not opposed to trying AMD off of this trend line. We made out very good on this name. I believe we had an original entry off of this at 72s. We got stopped out at 106. Is what it is. And, even looking at it when it was back at 111, we could have said, maybe there's something there. But down here in these 90s, it could be something building right there. But we're not falling asleep on AMD just yet. Fastenal, we got to take a look at Fastenal on the day. It's continuing to reject that downtrend. You can probably take a guess where we want it to drop to. 55.50. Not a perfectly set channel. Oh, back to the names that matter to us. What's AMC taking a look? Let's see what AMC is doing. Yeah, that's why we weren't going to buy that gap. But higher low in the commodity for a 15, which is a third higher low, maybe building a trend line. We have a gap fill at 11.11. Gap fill at 10.90. Support. Support at 10.70. I mean, if you were going to try and build a position, run a hard stop at 10. Yeah, probably not. I know there's a lot of people that love AMC, but man, sometimes you just gotta know. Sometimes you just gotta know what names to stay away from. Oh, man, I feel bad for some people. Man, the one word that comes to my head, Drift, is delusion. Just delusional. But, you know, down here, maybe there's something. Maybe there's something. I don't know. But I tell you what, here's your neckline. Here's your pops from neckline. If you're running a true out from the neckline, it's below these lows. So, I mean, us being patient, maybe we can dip into this down here and catch something just absolutely ridiculous to the upside. Um, I'm going to be extremely inclined to just stay away from it. GNS, I can't believe this is breaking back over 210. This might have something there, but you can see this sort of frowny face. You can see it, but you can also see the catalyst for a smiley face. It might get going. It might get going here. ASTS printing days high. There's a day high print. By no means we're gonna brag about this. We did get 89s. What's that 89 fill? 1.5%. Nothing crazy. $96. Nice increase of volume on these three candles as well. Didn't give much movement, but it is notable that it did give some volume increase. And when we were trading sideways right here, I mean, just a lot of nothing. Just a lot of nothing. But now, since the open today, there has been a little bit different feel where the volume, still not very much volume, but notable volume. So we really like this name for the short term. This company doesn't even have revenue yet, so by all means, just pump the brakes a little bit if you have to. But all we wanted to see it do today is test up through 4. If it can do that, we'll feel pretty good about holding it into the close. But still early entries on that name. It's gonna need some time still. I mean, all we really have to watch is GNS. I mean, we can watch these other names, but they're not going to be as flashy. Go EV, that wick top, probably the high for today. I gotta make a call to a buddy. I'll be back, guys. I might be getting closer to the ending the stream for the day. I just don't really have anything for you guys. So, I mean, other than that, it's just going to be kind of boring. We're just watching GNC or GNS. I can't even remember the ticker for it. And then ASTS. But, I mean, all the other title names are names that we either have already built the positions that we like, are comfortable with, or we're waiting for them to pull back. I mean, that's I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, yeah. So I'll be back. I'm gonna make a call, and I'll give some closing statements before I leave. So I'll be back. And we're back, guys. Sorry for the extended talk. You know, my screen was probably moving while I wasn't talking, but you know, you guys can take a gamble at what I was saying. ASTS leaving a nice green candle. Is this going to be something that gets some continuation? Still waiting to see on GNS. But this is the third candle coming on in. If this is going to reject this level, you know, let's see it get over the high from the previous candle and go from there. Other than that, I mean, I don't know what else I can bring to the table for you guys. So we're going to call it for the live stream today. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. It's always much appreciated when people tune into the stream. I love it. But that's going to call it for the day, and we will be back tomorrow. We'll probably start the stream before market open, as we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But other than that, we will see you guys tomorrow. So, peace.